All right, and we are live. Welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie.
And Kai Norman.
and Ryan Omega. Welcome to our special Hermit edition since we're all observing social distancing, but we still want to bring you some podcasting, some entertainment, and we've hit 20,000 downloads.
Holy crap. Oh my god, thank you guys so much for that.
Yeah, my mind is blown on that.
I'm still in disbelief, but there it is.
So, does Podbean track how many global downloads there are, or is it just through Podbean that it tracks? Like, does it track iTunes and Spotify and things like that?
It actually tracks things from iTunes, Podbean, anytime that particular feed is accessed. Oddly enough, it doesn't track anything from Spotify. So that means that we're technically over 20,000 because Spotify is its own counter. I haven't checked it yet, but thank you, listeners, for listening to
Okay.
us through all of the different uh,
Well,
ways to listen to podcasts. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We could not have done this without you.
that's great.
Shoutouts. Do we have any shoutouts for people today?
I have some shout outs, and it's not particularly towards gaming people, but my shout outs to everybody who has been sewing face masks for those of us who are essential workers or anyone who's out in the front line. Thank you so much. It has saved so much time and so much stress, at least for me, and I know that a lot of people in my office as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and keep it up.
My shout out was more towards, something very similar. Just, I know that there's at least a few of our listeners who are involved in the healthcare industry in some form or another. All of you taking big risks in keeping your industry going during this rather stressful time.
My shout out was basically going to be the same thing to the essential workers, healthcare providers. This is such a hard time, and you are out there putting yourselves at risk just so that the rest of us can have a normal life, as normal as it could be under this particular circumstance. So I really appreciate you. So thank you. It's a very dour start, but this is a very dour time. And so we wanted to talk about playing and gaming during and things social during a time of social distancing, because I know that for many of us this is a challenge just to get through life every day. I know for me it's been difficult, and sometimes my mood has to be checked every once in a while. And I'm grateful for my roommates who do the cooking and washing, and we will all collectively get groceries together. We pool our money just to make sure that we don't have to go out that often. Uh, but at the same time, we still have all this time indoors, and not saying it's extra time, just time indoors that we want to connect to people. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that have worked for us.
So an idea, since you kind of already talked about a little bit about your situation, Ryan, you are pretty much home for the LA lockdown, am I correct?
Yes, I'm pretty much home for the LA lockdown.
And Kai, what about your situation?
I am. I'm doing the same thing. Um, I'm staying with my girlfriend Vivka, who has been on the show before. But yeah, I'm staying at hers, and we're cooking together and cleaning and keeping the house nice and all that kind of jazz, and then playing video games in the evening a lot.
So my situation is actually different from both of you guys. I was listed as a essential worker. So I actually go out every day to the office Monday through Thursday, come back home, and I am stuck at home between Friday and Sunday. So my gaming has been limited, I guess, in terms of what other people are doing. Um, it hasn't stopped me from gaming. It certainly has cranked it up because that's basically all I can do now on the weekend. um, but it's been a difficult challenge balancing being an essential worker and trying to essentially keep up with the Joneses with everybody being on lockdown. Like I suffer from FOMO quite a bit. So I see everybody like doing all these different things and I'm like, I want to be home doing that too with everybody, but I can't. I'm working.
The irony there is there's probably a lot of people that would rather be back to work and not having to be stressed out in this thing. How
Yeah.
how does it feel like going out? I mean, like I tend to go out. I go out for the occasional drive just to remind myself that there's a bigger place outside, and then I go for, on most of the shopping runs for Vivka and I. But I mean, if you're working, 4 days a week, um, how does it feel like? Uh, you know, feeling like you're. Do you feel like you're taking more of a risk? Do you feel like you're doing the necessity thing, or
Yeah, I am definitely taking a very big risk. At my job, there has already been 5 reports of COVID in the various buildings on plant on site for me. So I am definitely at the high potential of getting it, if not already having it. I don't. I mean, obviously, I don't know. Um, by the way, if I cough, I am suffering from allergies, so please excuse me. But yeah, no, it definitely feels like it's a big risk, and it's hard for me because I would love to to see people as most of us do, and I have to keep reminding myself that I'm going out there all the time, and I have a higher chance of getting the virus. So yeah.
Wow. It My heart goes to you because I can't imagine how difficult it could be. I mean, I can imagine it, but you have to get up every day and treat it like it's normal, and then go to your job, and then at the same time protect yourself using sanitation behavior. And yet there are still reports at your facility that people are
Yep.
infected.
Yep. So the company itself has taken a lot of leaps to ensure our safety. They've done a lot of cleaning within the office and major touch points. We're now required to wear masks. So again, back to my shout out, like there were so many people who pulled together, including my mom and I, trying to figure out how to sew masks at the last minute because it became mandatory. And um, washing your hands, like I've never sang happy birthday to myself so many damn times to wash my hands. Um, it's become a new culture and a new environment. Like I started noticing that when I say goodbye to people, instead of like, hey, have a great weekend, have a fun weekend, it's always like, be safe, enjoy solitude, basically.
stay healthy is something I use
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see the different changes and the way people interact with each other. I haven't seen so much of the keep 6 feet away from each other. I know that people avoid your personal bubble, but I don't necessarily know that that's just the 6 feet thing. And mainly because hallways in my offices are a lot more condensed, so 6 feet is kind of almost impossible. But you see the mannerism of people at least trying to like avoid you, which at first you're like, do I smell? Oh yeah, no, it's just social distancing, right?
I'm trying to do my bit to help uh, with the masks, not sewing, but trying to buy some because I know that many of our creator friends don't have additional income right now. And I know that that's one side effect of the lockdown. Many of our friends who are um, craftspeople, prop makers, seamstresses, anyone who's a creator, an artist, an entertainer, uh, has the challenge. Production people have the challenge of not being able to do their normal jobs, and so even though I don't have like a ton of money, I bought some masks from our friend Jenny Newman, because I also like the look of those masks, and so I'm waiting for that order, and just bought extra ones just so that my roommates have them. So when they go out, they now have masks.
Amusingly enough, I've had a few people reach out to me to make them full leather plague doctor masks.
Nice.
I mean, that looked real cool. I would totally rock that at work.
Yep, padding like it's what was it, 1343? I think is like when the Black Plague happened,
Yeah.
something like that.
It definitely looked really cool, Kai. Like that was rock star status there.
Eh, it's fun making things and trying to keep myself occupied. I got lucky, and literally the day before the lockdown in LA became law, Tandy had like a big special sale that was supposed to be going on for like a week or two. And I hit it as soon as it opened and bought like 4 rolls of hides and things. So I've got plenty of leather to just make and make and make things right now. So I can feel like I'm being a bit more productive in my hull. Other than a few other of the more like online gaming and even like online roleplay and LARP ideas that have been getting bounced around not only with my business but with other people as well, which I'm sure we're going to talk about here.
So, what games have you been playing, or how have you found time to keep yourself occupied during this lockdown?
Well, when I get home, so let me split up my entertainment here. When I get home, I have about enough time for episode and a half of something. So I've been catching up on a lot of TV shows that I haven't watched, like The Witcher. um, which is an excellent series. Highly recommend it. I started on Schitt's Creek not too long ago. So during the week, I watch TV. Starting actually probably after we get off this podcast, I started playing Assassin's Creed again, Black Flag. So that's been a lot of fun. Into the gaming community, I totally forgot how to play the game, so I had to start over with the tutorials of how to move around and stuff. And then gaming online has ramped up a bunch. We played Sirens 2 weeks ago, and then Ryan and I played on a game for crap. Ryan, what's the channel?
For saving throw.
Thank you, Saving Throw. So that was fun too.
I love being
And
able
I've
to
been,
role playing with you again. It's like,
I
wow,
know, right? We haven't done that in a minute.
I know.
And then I also started doing virtual dance classes with some friends of mine. I'm actually teaching belly dancing tomorrow.
Nice. Kai, how have you been keeping occupied other than making fabulous leather masks?
A friend of mine who's a very talented and professional yoga instructor has a Patreon. Um, uh, Her name is Tracy Lynn. I've been using her Patreon to like look up on ways of trying to keep myself a little more on the healthy and flexible while I'm spending the majority of my time sitting in a chair and gaming. Um, but I've been playing online games, mostly things that I can um, kind of get the most of my friends to play with me. Call of Duty, because it's cross-platform, has been a pretty good one, and it's also free to play. So pretty much everyone who has a gaming console or PC of some form can play it with another person. So that's nice if you like first-person shooters. Um, I've been looking a lot into. There's been quite a few LARPs that have been suspended during this time. My own LARP, Dystopia Rising, across the network has been paused. We've had Twin Mask and a bunch of other ones. Like there was a Cthulhu mythos murder mystery one that we were going to do that I think all of us were invited to. And Ryan, you were part of the writing team for, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Even that one had to be suspended. So, I mean, we're doing the right thing by stopping these events because as event organizers, we have the responsibility. Ultimately, it's why some of the mayors or even governors of states have been closing national parks down, or like uh, closing public parks to stop people congregating. If you have something that someone can go to, they're probably going to want to try and go to it. And a more responsible thing is to not make it available to them and help flatten that curve in more of a community leadership kind of way, because if you run an event, you are a leader in some form or another, whether you identify as one or not.
That was a decision that we had to make with our Cthulhu game. We realized even before the lockdown that it was 40 of us over at my friend Bruce's place to be able to play this awesome game that we were planning. But we also thought at the time 40 was a lot of people, even before they told us that we shouldn't be meeting in large groups. We were just not comfortable with that many people in a singular place, even if it was sheltered and we all knew each other, because the because the virus itself is not apparent in people in as much as 3 to 5 days of showing no symptoms, then it could get like everybody sick, and we would just be a node for more infection. And I know that some of our friends, we don't know their medical history. We don't know who's exactly immunocompromised. So it wasn't worth it to us, even though we would have loved to do it. It wouldn't have been responsible for us as our own LARP community to hold it, knowing that we would put other people at risk that don't need to disclose their medical history.
And it's not even just a moral decision of like, I will be a community leader and I will do the responsible thing and stop this happening. But from a business standpoint, do you really want to be known as the LARP where a bunch of people caught like the virus? That doesn't get forgotten as easy. Like people are going to remember that, and they're going to remember it longer than anyone who got sick or so forth. Like it's just going to spread like bad reputation. And as we all know, the LARP community is pretty heavy on keeping some of those stories going and some of those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that said, a very good way of redirecting people's energy so they don't necessarily, hopefully, worry as much about things and don't feel like they're missing out on things. I've seen a number of LARPs actually try to do, online chat room LARPing. It feels like my AOL chat room and Mud days, where everyone's like working out ways of using Discord to have role playing scenes and even Dystopia Rising as an actual network. They're working on a format and have already ran a couple of games. Um, Other chapters, not mine yet, because my team is we're still working out how exactly we want ours to go. But formally, Dystopia Rising is running ticketed uh, online LARPs right now.
Do you know how those work?
Right now, every chapter has done things a little bit different. There is an attempt between the owners of the franchises to come to a general consensus of picking something that really works. I'm sure there is the potential because Dystopia Rising is not only a LARP, but it's also a tabletop set of rules as well. And the last edition of that, it did reasonable. It wasn't anything that I feel people really wrote home about, but it was, a, a, a reasonable attempt at a roleplay system. The newer version is actually, I think, the Kickstarter is releasing its rules in maybe a week or two. Um, that format is actually going to probably mesh quite well into the roleplay system of Dystopia Rising as a LARP. And there's going to be a lot of joint shared terminology between the two game systems. So it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being the base format for Dystopia Rising as a franchise. But this is even as an owner, we're still discussing good methods, and I've been more focused on interacting with my own design team and discussing how we want to try running our game and how we feel our players would want to play in it. I've even been looking at, I'm going to butcher the name. Was it 10 candles or 12 candles?
10 candles.
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
candles.
I've even considered like looking into how to play 10 candles and running 10 candle games for my players as part of our, like LARP ticketed role playing event.
10 candles is a good game to play virtually.
Yeah. I think there's some a fun potential for it. But I mean ultimately when I mean, is LARP still LARP if you're doing it online?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I know that recently, as of last week, our friend Niev Wickstead, who in
Hmm.
Mask we all know as Lady Governor Katerina, did this event called the Stay at Home Virtual Bar. And it was an event where it was designed to mimic the simulation of going into a bar. So the link to a Zoom would take you to the outside of the bar where you had a bouncer, you had to show your ID or at least role play showing your ID and explaining that you need to get into the bar. And based off of whatever room you wanted to go in, the bouncer would send you a link so that it would allow you to get into another room of that bar. So one of them would be just a main bar where people would just hang out. And then there was another place that was a karaoke lounge. And people were in charge of those rooms. And because they didn't want a single person in charge of a room, those people took shifts to have these role play spaces. And it was actually pretty cool. And it definitely felt like a LARP that just happened to be online. And it the only clunky part was in order to get into a room, you had to sign off of Zoom of that room, and then you had to sign back on with the link. But I thought it was a pretty neat way to have that experience, and good job to Niev and all the people involved just to try something very different.
Um, just because of I think it's an interesting topic here. And I mean no like aggression or dismissal to the people running it, because as long as people had fun, that is by and far and large the important thing here. But because I think it might be interesting as discussion point, how exactly does it really be a LARP though? Instead of, I mean, we see streamers playing D&D all the time.
Mhm.
This sounds a lot more like a freeform tabletop done in chat rooms than necessarily specifically a LARP.
I think it's because in this case, I do think about that it's the role play aspect, which I kind of lean towards because the people who were there, they could either be themselves, but usually the people were affecting a character. When like the person you met at as the bouncer was a character, the DJ in the karaoke lounge was a character. So you had the option of just being yourself. You could also be someone else. And if we're looking at like the physical space, then maybe that would be the challenge. Um, but I just kind of thought it was an interesting way to role play in a scenario where we couldn't go outside, so they had to replicate an outside for us to role play in. Whether that is LARP or not could be debated, but I enjoyed what they did.
Absolutely. And that is by and large the most important aspect here. Did people have fun? Was it successful? Excellent. I mean, ultimately, um, is it a LARP or not? Is it more just like, a multi-user dungeon, known as a MUD for some of our maybe younger listeners who might not recognize that term? Um, yeah, like, I mean, ultimately it doesn't really matter, but it is bringing people together and making people feel like they aren't alone. And I think that is important at every step. It's why I'm playing, run and gun online games with my friends, because I want to hear my friends' voices and I want to, you know, interact in some kind of world and see some kind of avatar running around that it represents them and it makes me feel comfortable. Likewise, Animal Crossing, which has been sucking up far too much of my time. I have been playing that with most of my friends that have it.
So I downloaded Animal Crossing Pocket Camp because I wanted
Oh,
to see if I would actually like this or not. It's cute. It doesn't hold my attention yet, and I don't know if maybe the aspect of playing with friends on the Switch would be more advantageous to me. Um, Concept's cute.
I think it's not necessarily worth buying a Switch to play.
Yeah.
But if you own a Switch, I think it is a good purchase to play if you have other friends who play it. Just a fun kind of time wasty, not time wasty. Like you still feel like you've kind of achieved things, and it's very toyetic and gamified. So every once in a while you'll do something and you get rewarded with little points, and you can use the points to buy more space in your house, and then you can decorate it with whatever crazy things you find or craft or build in the world. And eventually you even get to outright terraform areas of the world to suit whatever you like. It's super fun, and it's definitely keeping people engaged and making people feel less alone. I don't think and there's no way they could have planned for it, but I don't think. Uh, I think this is the perfect time for this game to come out.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I've only really seen three things since the lockdown. One is news about the coronavirus. Two, Animal Crossing. Three, Tiger King. That is pretty much everything that dominates my feeds right now.
That sounds
You're
about
not
right.
wrong. I would
Um,
add a fourth of toilet paper.
Oh yeah,
my God, I am starting to run out. I'm actually kind of nervous about where to get some now.
I am so happy I have a bidet. This has saved my butt, literally.
Oh, okay. So, winding back around to Animal Crossing real quick, I've seen a number of people doing things very outside of the box with that game. They'll use bug nets and chase each other around and try to hit each other with the bug nets. The bug nets are just used for catching bugs, but there's a specific animation if you hit someone in the head with it, and therefore they use that to play games of tag.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
That's cute.
People are like building little mazes and obstacle courses. They're building like little tea shops where they can hang out, and they all like walk around in the room in the game, but they've got a Discord chat open and they're talking to each other and actually just having a normal kind of conversation and like goobing about whatever they want to. I have seen friends of mine. They did a surprise birthday party, a real life birthday party, in the digital construct of that game, where they got the friend to show up to their island that. A bunch of people had worked together on building this island to be like a perfect kind of birthday celebration for them, and it involved like an escape room and riddles and hidden treasure and whole bunch of other things like set around the map of this island that they made. And it was a really meaningful, genuine like effort that the birthday person thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm sure they will always remember it too, especially because it made them feel like they had all of their friends with them, especially in this dark timeline.
See, with that story, that makes me want to go out and buy this game.
Hmm.
Same
Yeah,
here.
people do super wholesome and beautiful things, and I'm not talking strictly about Animal Crossing. We are in that. I mean, I love transhumanism and cyberpunk and things like that, and there's a phrase that no one ever freaking uses anymore because it's like late 90s terminology, cyberspace.
Wow, that takes me back.
Right? When was the
Yeah.
last time you actually heard that used in a sentence?
Literally just now by
Um,
you.
Uh-huh. With
I
the
hear it at
exception
work.
of that, though. But yeah, like people are finding ways to have social interaction that feels valuable to them, by interacting in a digital format. And it is very much that whole concept of like, yeah, like cyberspace and avatars and things like that. It's just far more realized, and it's gotten to that point where it's so you know intrinsically tied into just the lifestyle of all of us that we don't think about it. And
I
that's
know.
why cyberspace as a term doesn't exist, because there's no point of referring to it. In fact, cyberspace has been replaced with social media.
Very true. I have a I since I FOMO out on Animal Crossing since I don't have a Switch. I Bruce actually convinced me to try Tabletop Simulator from Steam, and
Yeah, he's mentioned that.
yeah, so I bought that, and it's a faithful replication of some board games that you would find in a place like BKT's. So some of the games that I have are Boss Monster and Wingspan, and so I've been able to play that with Bruce and Keith and like some others in a virtual space. So when we get into the tabletop simulator, it creates that board for us with all the pieces. And it takes a while to understand the controls of how to move things, how to move cards, how to roll dice. But once you get into it, then it does become maybe not instinctive, but it becomes learned. And while we are playing, we're also on our discords talking to each other in real time while we're playing this game. So it really feels like you're playing in the game space with them. And I know that Bruce's sister, Grace, is in Japan. And I was able to play a game where she was in the same game as we were, but she was in Japan, and it felt like she was in the same room. And that experience was just cool to have that combination of playing a game but also having this Discord, so our talking would match whatever we were doing in the game.
If you are observing the social distancing and you're doing the lockdowns, like at least people in America are thoroughly, it seems like thoroughly sticking to, especially if you're in a strong metropolitan area, people are taking it more and more seriously every day. Um, but with that in mind, um, when you start to observe the actual rules and you make a point of staying at home for the majority of your time, um, distance, like, oh, that person's half an hour drive, or that person is on the other side of the planet. Distance is relative at that point in time. It doesn't matter if they're in another country or not. They're still not someone you're going to see in person, and therefore having that ability to reach out to them in a digital way, um, it's it's equal. It doesn't matter if I'm, like reaching out to one of you two who we all live in the same city, or I'm reaching out to someone on the other side of the planet. It still feels just as valuable and the same. The distance that we have in real life, being down the street from each other, doesn't matter at that point in time. I find that fascinating and a little beautiful.
That was such a well said statement. It's like, how do we follow up with
Yeah, I was like, I've got nothing to follow up with
this?
that.
Sorry.
um, oh, there is one place where I could take it. One thing that has been interesting just from the streaming end, because I am a part of Total Party Kills, is the number of active programs that have to happen just for the show to run. And for us, it's we have to be on Zoom at the same time our D&D characters are on D&D Beyond, and then we also have Roll20 so we can see the layout of the map. And while it's a few programs to juggle through, my brain is kind of blown that you can have a full-on experience virtually, uh, even in this time. And so people who want to run like online games of D&D or online games of anything, you can totally do it. You Those resources do exist. You just kind of have to explore and see what works for you, and obviously play test to see what would work. And it's also an excuse to meet up with your friends, because really very few people are going to refuse any kind of social game right now, uh, because it gives them some sense of normalcy to have something in your schedule and something to look forward to with a few people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when we were setting up for the streams, yeah, that we pretty much had the same thing with sirens. I also I think also looking at the application of broadcasting the show too is also quite a bit. Like I know that that was already a factor when you guys were doing the show in live, but adding that the program to broadcast it too, I think is also adding to a minute difficulty. I'm looking into doing it because I want to start DMing some stuff.
Yes,
So
let us know. I want to play. What games, shows, and interactions have you wanted to do but haven't quite gotten to yet?
That's a tough one.
I mean, there's a couple of games that are coming out in the next month that I'm excited for. So obviously I have to wait until those come out. Um, I'm I would love to get behind DMing a game again. But part of that involves me picking up Roll20 and learning how to use it. And I don't know if I'm. I got to admit, like, with everything that's going on, I think I'm trying to accept that it's somewhat normal, but I often find myself, my motivation starts to tank, or I find myself kind of questioning, oh, I really want to do this, but should I do it? Like, does it matter right now? Like, why do I want to spend this time when? And then I start feeling guilty and being like, well, I could do something really, really like real life productive right now rather than just like learning how to use a piece of software so I can play a game. Um, in short, I'm an asshole to myself, and I don't like me. Um, but I mean that in a jovial manner. It's that kind of tongue-in-cheek joke about like being self-employed sucks because your boss is an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the most of what I meant in that. But yeah, my motivation I think is the biggest thing that's stopping me from necessarily just doing everything and that I've ever wanted to right now because yeah, I'm nervous about money and I'm nervous about toilet paper, I guess. But I'm also just I want my time to be productive, but I'm also just finding difficulty in being that kind of motivation method. Um, to a degree, I've found that gamifying things a little helps. Have you guys heard of that before?
No, they say I'm in the same boat as you in terms of motivation, Kai. Like I get home and I'm like, I'm going to clean my house. I'm going to redecorate, which I have redecorated, but like reorganizing, and I'm like, I'm too tired, and I know I should do this, and I'm having a hard time being motivated as well. So, yeah, I I think I know what you're talking about on gamifying, Kai. Right, like making it a game out of yourself so that you get motivated to do it. Is that where you're going with it?
Very much, yeah. Um, kind of applying scores or like even just setting yourself up as like, oh, this butter jelly, um, sandwich is a quest reward, and I don't get to eat it until whenever whenever I do this other thing that I am less motivated to do.
Yeah. I haven't quite done that yet. I probably will get there soon.
Yeah,
um, but I gotta admit, like being home alone is kind of tough. Um, to be motivated as well. Like I have my family that lives down the street, and I do visit them. But coming home and like not really having too much to talk to, except for me and my dog, I lose a lot of steam. So maybe gamifying things might help.
Speaking of gamifying things, this is a perfect segue. A few weeks ago, I sent you a link. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. Uh, so, uh, so Sam Sanchez, our friend, circulated this link called "Work Slash Play" by Alex Flanigan, and it is a series of microLARPs that are used for people with executive dysfunction, so that it helps them get them through their day. So they so it creates mini micro LARPs for doing things like getting out of bed and taking a shower and cleaning your room. And it gamifies those things so you become motivated to do the things that you just don't feel like you have the energy to by just making a game out of it. Like the both of you, I've had difficulty trying to stay motivated. And I know on a lot of my social media, a lot of it is trying to be hopeful, trying to be positive. Um, but I run out of mana more quickly under this event more than any other. Sometimes I'll get tons of messages asking for help, and I just don't have any more mana to spend. I try to use mana instead of spoons um, because it's more accurate to me. I kind of had to get into the mindset of that it was okay to spend complete. hours doing nothing because just like a cell phone needs to be recharged every once in a while, otherwise it can't continue to function. So I've gotten easier. It's been easier to let go of that guilt when I realized that just living under this particular situation takes a lot out of you. And if you can get through your day, you've done enough at this point
Mm-hmm.
because we're in a pandemic. And let's be real, like you shouldn't have to guilt yourself into thinking I must do everything every day because you are doing something. If you can't go outside and you feel guilty about it, you're helping flatten the curve. You're saving other people from infection by doing the community minded thing. And we need to realize that is such an important thing right now. We're seeing it in California that it has taken a great effect because we've been taking it seriously. Luckily, the governor has also been contributing to that as well. Um, the prediction should have been much worse for a state more that is about 40 million. Like our highest predicted death toll is going to be like 1700. Not great by any means, but it could have been far worse. And
Mm-hmm.
part of it is because we are taking this seriously, and we should continue to take it seriously to make sure that our friends and family are healthy and safe.
Very. So there was a little bit of pause earlier. I was actually rummaging around to try and find Alex's piece of work. I was wondering, I mean, since it is free, though, as you said, if you guys can afford to help him out a little bit and toss him a few dollars, those types of things are always very very appreciated. But Ryan, would you be okay with us, with me reading out one of the games real quick?
Of course.
Okay, this is one. This is one I think is kind of cool. It's game number 11. It's near the end of the book. It's called Symbiote. A game for hydrating to. You are an average Joe, or you were, until something strange happened last night. The details are blurry: a dark alleyway, an unusual material, an inexplicable encounter, whatever happened, and you're not sure exactly what that is. You're now sharing your body with something, or someone, else. Someone very, very thirsty. The good news is your new friend grants you remarkable superpowers. The bad news is they only work if you drink a glass of water every hour. Miss an hour, and the symbiote stops functioning. But if you get a few more glasses in, you'll start to notice remarkable changes. Heightened senses, increased intelligence, faster reflexes, just to name a few. Keep track of how many hours you get a drink in over the course of a day. Try over subsequent days to make it to 10 every day. 0 hours achieved. Your symbiote is dead. Start over tomorrow. 1 to 3, your symbiote is stable, no change. 4 to 6, your symbiote grows stronger and you gain a level. And 7+ hours of being properly hydrated, your symbiote is thriving and you get +2 levels. And at the bottom of the page, it has a nice little, kind of checkbox graph for you, just kind of, if you print something like this out or draw it out somewhere, or you could even whiteboard it in your house or something, you just check it off every day of how many water points that you've given your symbiote. But yeah, that's it. And it's only just one page, and that's an example of the micro games that he's made.
I do that at work every day. I
Really?
actually challenge, yeah, one of my friends. We have whiteboards, and we keep track of how many water bottles we drink a day. And like, I could barely keep up with her, but yeah, it's basically the same concept minus the symbiote part of it. But like, her and I are constantly competing on who can drink the most water.
Competition is actually, especially in American culture, is a really strong drive for achieving things. Um, Honestly, get a couple of friends and have a common goal, and with that, set yourself that challenge, and compete with people, and make it a fun thing. I think applying competition into our regular routine is a good way to stay motivated in these times. Actually, I think it's super cool that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We do set up a lot of challenges at work to keep us motivated. What are some other ways you guys keep yourself motivated?
I was lucky enough that I have a bunch of kettlebells at home so that during lockdown I now work out with them. And uh, the unfortunate part is that I'm now throwing around 55-pound kettlebells regularly, but I also am stress eating, so I'm gaining bulk, but not the one that I want. But I am significantly stronger now than I have been when I started the lockdown. It's like being in prison. So I've become a much stronger prisoner.
Ryan comes out of quarantine looking like the Hulk, and everyone's like, "What the hell?" Ryan got swole while the rest of us just got like sickly, pallid, and you know etc. I mean, I'm from England though, and my complexion is two colors: white or boiled lobster. There is no separation on those. It's just one or the other. There's no middle ground. So yeah, I look pasty and sickly in general. So I don't think anyone's gonna notice. Goth kid problems, I guess.
Wow. That's great. I have been more active than I normally am. Like I said earlier, I've been taking dance classes because my dance teacher from when I was a little kid asked if we wanted to take her ballet class. So every Friday morning, I get up and I take ballet in the middle of my living room.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, online classes is something that's kind of spiking right now. Quite a few colleges. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a professor, and he was telling me that his entire syllabus curriculum. I'm trying to work out the right word for it. I don't know. But his entire lesson plan has completely formatted and changed over to doing things online and doing it via video chat and everything.
Yeah, I'm really curious after all of this happens, how much of the culture that we're creating right now actually sticks around.
Because we've discovered some new innovations that made things easier, some of it will definitely stick around, if not just the technology and the advances that and innovations that happened during this time, but also things like delivery services would have probably improved. Like jobs in the transport sector would have been more refined and streamlined as a result of stuff like this. So certain things are going to carry over.
So I work in a corporate industry, as most of you guys probably know. And before all of this happened, it was we had the ability to telecommute, work from home, sort of a deal. But the culture behind that, especially like in the office that I work in, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you millennials, like you want to work from home. You guys are kind of lazy. Like, why would you do that? You need to be in the office working." And it's just very interesting to me that when the virus hit and it was mandated that everybody who can work from home starts to work from home, you started seeing a difference in the attitudes of the people who look down on it as now kind of confused and not knowing what to do. And so I'm curious from a business aspect if telecommuting from work is going to be more readily accessible and available because of how quickly the rubber band had to snap for people to immediately start working from home. Like, I know my mom works in the real estate business, and all of her stuff is completely desktop with manual filing cabinets, and she is on the phones constantly. And the fact that she needed to work from home because she's kind of part of the at-risk group, the rubber band snapped for her team, and they were like, "Oh my god, like we don't know if we have the infrastructure to support this." But now that they have it in place, like she's like, "Well, maybe I could work from home more often." I was like, "This is a very interesting psychology switch for corporations," and I'm just like, I'm real curious what's gonna stick.
I mean, I'm trying to avoid necessarily talking about the more political side on things or the choices and stuff because we're in a tricky situation right now, and it's definitely been it's got some sources of where our problems have kind of like slid in from. But I'm really hoping that a lot of corporations kind of reform how they handle things, and a lot more of the public becomes kind of, I suppose, more aware of what exactly kind of caused our like rather oddly balanced Jenga tower to feel like it's falling down right now. And I'm trying to stay optimistic that at the end of all of this lockdown and everything, um, we're gonna come out better for it. We're gonna come out more learned, more educated, more in the know on stuff, and able to kind of move forward from this and protect ourselves better in all kinds of ways from this,
Mhm.
if that makes
Um,
sense.
no, it totally makes sense. I'm looking at the time, and it is time to start wrapping up. I really miss chatting with you guys. Like, I am so glad to share this time, and this may not be uh, the most uplifting
No.
of all of the podcasts, but it is what we are going through right now, and all of our listeners, we appreciate uh, everything that you are doing to stay healthy, as well as just listening to the three of us chatting away. And we would love to cover any topics that you want to hear right now. So just give us a knock and let us know, and we'll record things for you.
Yeah, we want to hear about your. Please let us know. Reach out to us on the social medias. If you have any of those games that Alex has created, or maybe you've made your own games that you like to do. If you have something that you want to share with us, please, we'd love to hear it. I'd love to talk about it a little
All right, Sin, your socials.
All
bit.
right, Instagram. You can find me on Cynthia underscore underscore Marie. On Twitter at Syndancer. And gosh, you can find me on LA by Night. I guess by the time this goes up, my epilogue would have already aired.
Woo.
But you can watch everything on YouTube. Everything's showing up within a week. Sirens is kind of sort of starting back up, so look out for that. And there might be some other things that come out of it. So yeah, stay tuned.
Kai.
Firstly, I just want to say real quick, I'm really glad and I feel very lucky that we were able to get together and have all three of us recording an episode just before things started to kind of rear its head in regard with the virus. I definitely feel like that was one of the things that I would have deeply, deeply regretted us not being able to squeeze in before things started to get bad. And it wasn't that we saw, like, oh, things are going to lock down, we got to do this now. It just so happened that, we just lucked out and we picked a good time for it. And then over the next like 3 or 4 weeks after that, things just got, a little darker, shall we say. But I'm really, really grateful that we got to have that with the I got to have that with the two of you because it meant a lot.
Same.
Mhm.
But my socials are Yokai Props, YOKAIPROPS. That is the same for Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram is far more, props and cool things that I build, and the occasional LARP stuff. My Twitter is far more involved with the more political things. So you know, different flavors for different folks, I suppose. I do have a pretty cool Plague Doctor mask up on Instagram that I made a few days back, though. So that might be interesting. Ryan?
So you can find me under Ryan Omega on Facebook and Instagram under Ryan OMGA on Twitter. I do use my Instagram a little bit more than Twitter. Twitter, I you can communicate with me directly. With Instagram, I just am a more visual person, so I ended up using that more. You could find me on Mondays on Scabby Rooster Twitch channel for Total Party Kills. This next Tuesday, or this upcoming Tuesday, is going to be Blank Slate Timeless, where we're going to have a different online game where we go to the Timeless and explore their memories. And that is going to be a new and interesting game. And sometime upcoming, I'm going to be holding a tarot card streaming thing because I think it's an interesting way to connect with people, and I'm calling it Stream of Consciousness, and it will be on a Twitch channel, and more details will be um, we'll be there. I want to thank our Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much for your support, especially the Eyes of the World, Talon Bowler, Fei Liang, Some Sanchez, and Aaron Ludlow. Thank you so much, and everyone, um, thank you.
You rock.
Yes, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.